Bingdu is a small leader of a third-rate underworld. Because he cannot flatter his boss, he has never been reused. He usually does small things like collecting accounts and fighting, but now he can hardly support his gangster team. His family has a sick widowed mother, and younger brothers and sisters who are studying. The house they live in is also facing demolition. However, because it is a suburban area, the compensation money is not enough to buy a new house, and the family is about to live on the streets. The urgency of survival and the pressure of life all fell on his 29-year-old shoulders. On this day, he broke into the debtor's house, stripped down to a pair of underwear, and then performed a massage in front of the family's 2 children. Although this method is rogue, the effect is remarkable. The debts are recovered and life is settled. Bingdu was in a particularly bright mood, but when he returned to the company, the boss Xiang's only gave him a small commission, saying that his sister was getting married next month and was in urgent need of money. But Bingdu knew that he was gambling with it, so he complained a few words in a low voice, and received a slap in the face. Before leaving, the two met the real boss behind the gang, the chairman. When the chairman heard that Bingdu had recovered another bad debt for the company, he was amazed at his business ability, and invited him to have a drink with him. At the wine table, the chairman knew clearly who was working for the club, and decided to hand over the newly opened game arcade to Bingdu. While they were drinking and drinking, the chairman's phone rang. He was obviously disgusted, but his tone was groveling. It turned out that the company was caught by a prosecutor because of money laundering and gang involvement, and he came to extort him every now and then. Because of this incident, the chairman was troubled day and night, so he wanted Xiang's to deal with this time bomb. But Xiang's is not stupid. He said that killing a gangster is okay, but killing a government official is not asking for death. The chairman smiled helplessly, knowing that his younger brother's wings were stiff and disobedient, but a light flashed in Bingdu's eyes. On the opening day of the game arcade, Minao, a classmate and friend whom he had not seen for many years, came to visit. He is a down-and-out director, who is preparing to make a gangster-themed movie, but the script he wrote lacks realism, and has been repeatedly rejected. After hearing that Bingdu was a gangster, he came to him for advice. During the chat, Bingdu received a call. It turned out that a hostile gang came to the game arcade to cause trouble. He rushed all the way back to the game hall, and gave his enemy a flying kick. Melee together, Minao was deeply shocked, and quickly recorded this rare material with his mobile phone. With the goal achieved, the enemy got on the vehicle and fled. In order to regain his position, Xiangze, who arrived late, decided to gather his members and fight to the death with the opponent. Unexpectedly, the enemy was well prepared. They set up an ambush halfway and surrounded Bingdu and other members. This is the real gangster fight. There are no bells and whistles, only real punches. Even if a knife is used, the vital points will be avoided. After all, if someone loses his life, the police will inevitably intervene. But at this time, Xiang's accidentally stabbed the other person to death. Afterwards, he paid money and arranged for other members to take the blame. As compensation, he gave the game hall that belonged to Bingdu to the brother who took the blame. Seeing that the hope of life was ruthlessly taken away again, Bingdu knelt down and begged his boss to take back his decision. Xiang's asked coldly, "Can you go to jail for me?" Bingdu was stunned and his face was ashen. He couldn't go in. He still had a family waiting to be fed. He was facing internal and external troubles, and Bingdu was mentally and physically exhausted. That night, the chairman had no choice but to entertain the prosecutor. The prosecutor drank some wine and cursed them as the trash of society. The chairman, who usually had a high status, was scolded like a son. Later, Bingdu sent the chairman home. When he arrived, the chairman did not get out of the car immediately. Instead, he lit a cigarette and said something meaningful. "When I met Xiang's, he was your age. At that time, he dared to fight and work hard. I have been teaching him. If you want to succeed, you must remember 2 points. Who do I need, and what does he need? Now it seems that he is strong enough and doesn't seem to need anything." The chairman sighed. There are still many things to do, but it is rare to meet a lifelong confidant. Bingdu knew there were implications in these words. He went back to find the chairman, seeking wealth and danger for his family and himself. To be on the safe side, Bingdu found his most trusted follower, Zongsu, to assist him. One night, they followed the prosecutor's car. At an unmonitored traffic light intersection, Zongsu caused a rear-end accident. When the prosecutor got out of the car to check, Bingdu delivered a fatal blow from behind. Then the two cars disappeared into the night and headed down a dark road. After getting rid of the serious trouble in his heart, the chairman immediately said that he would reuse Bingdu and join forces with him to do something big. Bingdu was full of fighting spirit, but he did not forget the brothers who followed him and endured hardship. He always treated them as family members and gave them all the money given by the chairman. In his heart, he was not only the boss, but also their older brother. The next day, Minao took him to a class reunion. At the dinner table, his unrequited lover from school days, Xianzhu, was also there. She was still so beautiful, and her smile was touching. Bingdu changed from a gangster to a shy boy in an instant, and the feelings he had indulged in for many years resurfaced. He said to Minao, "Thank you, today is a great day." When Minao heard that his mother was hospitalized, he came to the hospital for a visit. The two of them chatted about their childhood embarrassments, which made them laugh. At this moment, Bingdu suddenly felt that he was not living so alone, nor was he just fighting and killing. After becoming friends, Bingdu brought Minao to the club and allowed him to get close contact with the gang to seek inspiration for the script. During the interview, Minao discovered that they were all forced to join gangs by life. They all dreamed of making enough money and then quitting the gang. The next day, Bingdu was called to the office. As soon as he sat down, the boss tried to sound him out and said, "Have you heard? The prosecutor is missing." Bingdu tried to calm down and said he didn't know, but the fleeting look of panic betrayed him. The boss gave him a meaningful look and said, "He actually jumped over the rank and hooked up with the chairman in order to avoid being replaced." Xiang's plans to clean up the family after his sister's marriage. On the other hand, Bingdu also noticed the boss' suspicion and decided to take a preemptive strike. The wedding was overflowing with joy, but secretly there was a dangerous tide surging. Zongsu went to deal with the boss follower, and Bingdu took out a dagger and killed his boss in the toilet while the boss was alone in the toilet. The dagger stabbed so fiercely and decisively that the boss stared with eyes full of disbelief and reluctance. A happy event turned into a funeral. People came and went at the scene, and there were many enemies in this business, so no one suspected Bingdu at all. The chairman has already hinted at killing Xiang's. This time Bingdu took over. Not only did he move to a new home, but he also got a fancy office. After climbing out of the quagmire of life, he also began to bravely pursue his love. Bingdu often went to the bookstore where Xianzhu worked. During that time, Bingdu seemed to be a different person. He is not a stubborn person, but the world does not allow him to be soft. But Xianzhu's appearance brought tenderness and love to his eyes. That night, Bingdu caught her arguing with the store manager. It turned out that the two had been in a relationship before, but Xianzhu later discovered that the store manager was actually a married man. But after the breakup, the other party kept pestering her, and Bingdu stepped forward to rescue her. But the store manager was still messing around, and Bingdu couldn't bear it anymore, revealing the ferocious and violent side of the underworld. This scene frightened Xianzhu. In the heavy rain, she said that she hated gangsters and could not accept a man who made her feel scared. After failing in love, Bingdu got drunk and confided on his friend's back. "Minao, are you afraid to? Living is so tiring. This is really not a life for human beings." In order to survive, they cheated and stabbed each other with knives. In the end, he didn't look like a person. Life is a mess. Minao comforted. Evryon's life is similar. I also spent 3 years like this in order to become a director. I have always been curious about what it feels like to stab someone. Bingdu said, "It's terrible. It's like you're a different person at that time. Never look into the other person's eyes. Otherwise he will pester you for the rest of your life." That rainy night, under the influence of alcohol, Bingdu couldn't help but tell all his past experiences. Soon after, the chairman acquired a piece of land and wanted to develop apartments, but it was difficult to get the residents to move out. The chairman wants Bingdu to take action, and promises to share 5 billion with him after the deal is completed. Finally getting through it, Bingdu's eyes lit up. Then he led the gangsters to force the residents here to move out through coercion, inducement and intimidation. Those who slay dragons will eventually become evil dragons. At the same time, with the help of Bingdu, Minao wrote a fascinating script, and the investors immediately decided to make it into a movie. After the chairman heard about it, he asked Bingdu to help introduce his daughter, who dreams of becoming an actress, to Minao, hoping that he would arrange a role in the play. When he stood at the highlight of his life, Bingdu felt lonely. He regained his courage and went to the bookstore where Xianzhu worked, only to learn that she had taken sick leave and had not come to work for several days. Bingdu immediately found Xianzhu's home and gave up all his work to take care of her. Xianzhu was eating hot porridge, and the ice in Xianzhu's heart was melted little by little. The next day, Bingdu came to the filming site to visit the crew, but the actors' movements were too striking. He said to Minao, "This is not how gangsters fight." He called Zongsu and punched him in the heart. It was simple, practical and deadly. Before leaving, he encouraged Minao to capture the essence of the gang. In his heart, gangsters are loyal and happy. Along the way, Bingdu could no longer control his love. He kissed Xianzhu and said, "As long as you are willing, I can quit the gang and spend the rest of my ordinary life with you." Xianzhu felt his sincerity and love and chose to believe him for once. Everything seems to be moving in a good direction. Soon after, Minho's movie was completed because it is the most realistic gangster movie. It caused a sensation in the film industry as soon as it was released. Bingdu and Zongsu went to watch with joy, but were frightened, because the plot in the movie is exactly the same as when he killed his boss and killed the prosecutor. It turns out that Minho adapted what he said that night into a movie. When the chairman learned about it, his face was gloomy and he asked Bingdu to figure out what to do. The implication is that only the dead keep secrets, but Bingdu missed his old relationship and just warned him not to mention it again in the future. But this move aroused Zongxia's concern. He advised Bingdu not to be kind. Our lives cannot be handed over to someone I don't trust. If you can't do it, then I will do it. The angry Bingdu kicked him over and warned him not to touch his friend. But Zongsu didn't give up. He secretly kidnapped Minho to a factory and threatened him with usual methods to keep it secret. After some torture, a trace of cruelty flashed in his eyes. When he returned, he found a policeman and sold Bingdu completely. On Christmas Day, Bingdu happily proposed to Xianzhu, but suddenly several plainclothes policemen rushed out of the crowd. Fortunately, he reacted quickly enough and escaped through the back door of the bookstore. In those days, Bingdu, who was hiding here and there, was like a lost dog, with regret and disbelief in his tired eyes. On another rainy night, he found the chairman and promised to clean up his mess. However, he also expects the chairman to fulfill his previous promise of 5 billion. That is the hope of my whole family. I will leave South Korea after that. Don't worry, even if I am caught, I will not accuse you. The chairman's eyes tightened as soon as these words came out. At this moment, Minho is in the glory of the great director, drink and dance every night, without any trace of guilt or regret for his betrayal on his face. Bingdu watched from a distance and was heartbroken. He stood up quickly and drew out his dagger and stepped closer. At this moment, Minho raised his head and their eyes met. Minho ran away in panic, used the crowd to escape through the back door of the bar. But Zongsu has been waiting here for a long time. Bingdu asked them to take Minho to the parking lot by the river, and he would arrive soon. But when he arrived, there was no one around. A van suddenly burst out of the darkness and knocked him to the ground. A group of gangsters with unknown origins were attacking him like crazy. Bingdu fought back, but the opponent was outnumbered, so he fought and retreated. In a desperate situation, his gangster brother's car drove up in the distance. Bingdu was just glad that he was saved, but in the next second, the gangster killed him just as he had killed his boss. The blood stained his clothes red, reflecting his shocked expression. Zongsu came out of the darkness. His face no longer had the past relationship, only desire and ambition remained. Bingdu understood and was relieved. He looked at the cold river, and the wind blew the bitter sadness of fate. What was reflected in the water was Xianzhu's face, and they were separated forever before they had time to kiss. The betrayer buried Bingdu's body, and the photos were thrown into the fire, along with his simple hopes, which turned into nothingness. In that familiar box, the chairman was the instigator. He didn't let anyone kill Minho because he could launder money by making movies. He asked someone to kill Bingdu and put all the blame on the dead man. He acquiesced in Zongxia's ascendancy because he was obedient. This old fox, who has been in the world for half his life, knows how to take advantage of people's hearts. The three of them raised a toast and boarded the train of interests together. As for how far they can go, it is unpredictable. After all, this road is full of meanness. A Dirty Carnival is directed by Yuha. Gangster movies were once popular. The gangsters in the movies were happy with grudges and valued love and justice. Those of us who are not deeply involved in the world think that this is the true underworld spirit. But when we grow up, we realize that the so-called essence of the underworld is just vile, full of deceit, betrayal and desire. Bingdu in the film is just like us who were once innocent and thought we had family like brothers and pure and precious friendship. But when the lamentation of desire sounds, and the wind of human nature blows into the night, blood is splashed everywhere and friendship is shattered, only interests are eternal. Another meaning of street is gangster, and another meaning of gangster is human heart. Another meaning of human heart is self-interest, and another meaning of self-interest is sinister. Human nature is selfish and will do whatever it takes to achieve the goal. The despicable people will survive, and they will be trampled under the soles of the even more despicable people. The torrent of history rolls forward, embracing each of us and heading to the next intersection, with its stains of blood and sin. This is HKY Movies, looking forward to seeing you in your next movie.